and it can still be pretty and luxurious, but it is a more casual setting and easier. Everybody gathers around the kitchen table. Everybody gathers around the family room, so everybody can participate in your area where you are.
Yeah, it seems like when you go places, it seems like more people are moving towards that, but maybe not necessarily so many houses in New England offer that. So those kind of things.
So you do, and that's why when you're building, a lot of times I'm working with several clients right now that do have that open floor plan concept.
Yeah.
So when you're building, a lot of times once you get the floor plan all set, you start choosing your finishes. So with that, you say, okay, we have to choose, say, the light fixtures for the kitchen. Now you go and you have a polished nickel faucet. Okay, well, we decide we're going to do light fixtures that are polished nickel. Well, you may not want polished nickel light fixtures throughout your whole house.
You might not want them in the living room, in the kitchen.
Exactly. So what happens is you try to blend metals. You try to make an easy transition, say, from the kitchen to the eating area, to the dining room, to the family room. You may have a foyer that runs off of that, a lavette. So you want to, what I call visually organized.
Okay.
So when, for instance, if you are choosing your light fixtures, I like to use a little trick where I take PowerPoint or the Google Slides, and I'll take photographs of all the light fixtures we're working with on the first floor. And I'll dump it all into one slide so it can be a cohesive plan where you can see all the styles and the finishes together. So what I did was I just pulled one up off my computer, as you can see. I don't know if you can see that, but just for instance, this kind of shows the whole cohesive plan for your schedule.
Yeah, like to see if this even all blends together or not.
Right, exactly.
So what you're talking about basically is if you're designing for an open floor plan, is you really want when you're looking at light fixtures, you want them to all blend together. That's what's really important. So rather than having things really stick out, so you don't really have one room that looks like a sore thumb.
Absolutely.
So that's important. What are some other things that you want to look for so you really have that flow?
Well, when you're talking about paint selections, that's important as well. Just because you have an open floor plan doesn't mean you need to do the same paint color all throughout.
So it doesn't need to be all light blue?
No, it doesn't. You can have your paint selections go from one color to another, but if you want to stay the same value, the same tone of color, and it may go from, say, a gray, very, very subtle changes, but it can change. So you may not notice it right away, but subconsciously as you move from one room to another, you do see the color changes. In that way, it gives you the ability to also change fabrics and finishes as you move into the next room as well.
Oh, I like that. Does there tend to be, you want your kitchen brighter or your living room darker? Is there any, concept when you're looking in that kind of thing? Or is it really just depends on your preference or style?
It really does, it is your preference and your style. A lot of times with the open floor plan, the kitchen does end up nice and bright and airy because it's usually on one end of the house with lots of windows. If you want to bring in big bold colors into another room, you absolutely can do that. I like to do it with artwork, maybe some furniture that's maybe a royal blue or on that idea. That's how I like to bring in real deep colors in an open floor plan.
And then continuing on that discussion with furniture, to make things flow, what are you really looking at in terms of designing with that?
Well, with furniture, you have to really be aware of the size and the proportionate to each other. You don't want furniture to be create chaos in a room. So if you design with proportions in mind, then what will happen is it will start to ground the room. So you have a sofa and nice sized chairs and maybe a couple of ottomans, a nice area rug. So with furniture, you definitely have to think of the proportion and also color. So if your living room does move into, say, your dining room, now what you want to do is you want to make sure that the fabrics kind of blend together, and by no means does that say you have to do the same exact
Match.
colors.
Okay.
You do not have to match, especially now. Trends are going toward the ability to say, okay, fabrics really don't match. You don't need that exact blue in the sofa that's in your area rug, or that exact plum that's in your dining room chairs. As long as you have a lot of fabrics and color and design and everything works together, the possibilities are really endless.
And if you have, do you almost want to look for like one neutral something so you can build off of that? Is that a strategy that you could go with? Whether it's a neutral feature in your rug or a neutral couch or neutral paint color. I mean, is that almost one way that you can build to make it kind of cohesive?
You can start with a neutral color palette and build off of that. What I like to do is begin a concept of color.
I like that concept of color. Yeah.
So
I can remember that one.
That's a good strategy. What I usually do is we might put a rug with a sofa and chairs and start from there and develop a color palette based off of that. I have a lot of clients where we'll choose gray walls and mostly that color palette on the walls, and they say this whole house will be gray.
Yeah.
And believe me, when you're all said and done, it is absolutely not all gray. It's what you put with it that will make the whole room come together.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. And we kind of talked a little bit about paint selections. But how can we kind of work off of, like you said, the cohesive color palette when it comes to paint selections?
So with the cohesive color palette, you want to choose your colors wisely, and possibly, say, your lavette. That's a place where, a powder room, a place where you can have some fun with that. One of the light areas and open floor plan I'm working on right now, everything is light and airy except for the furniture, but then in the lavette we're doing navy blue walls.
Oh,
And the lavette has like 10-foot ceilings, so I'm bringing
Gorgeous.
the navy up on the ceiling as well.
Gorgeous.
So it really is a good way of having some fun in that room, because it's something you can take risks with, an area you can take risks with.
Okay.
Right.
And so really, is it okay to take those risks in your homes?
Oh yeah, totally.
If you can afford it.
Yeah, you can, and it's more fun that way. It creates some excitement in areas, so take a chance. I always say be brave and hold your breath and jump. And if you're working with a designer who can help you with that, you have to put trust into your designer to say, yes, that'll work. Yes, it'll be okay. Because it is a scary thing to do that. But like I said, just be brave and jump, and it'll be amazing.
Well, and I think what you have brought, when you're putting together those visual concepts, seeing it before really makes a big difference. It's not just like you're putting in those like fixtures and then you go, oh, that didn't work. If you're really looking at them ahead of time on a piece of paper and you're working with someone to have that visual element first, and you go, this didn't work as well as I wanted to. I think that makes a big difference.
It really does. Like I said, you want your you want clients to be visually organized.
Yeah.
And without that, it can just lead to mistakes and process. So that's why I like to do what I do and put it all in a PowerPoint. Another design element you want to think of when you're building or renovating is adding ceiling elements, architectural elements to define your space. So say we're adding a coffered ceiling into your living room. Well, now you have a big area for your living room that leads right into your kitchen, that leads into your eat-in area. You don't want to bring a coffer all the way through, so you decide where you're going to break it.
Okay.
And a good place to break it would be right as you meet the kitchen from your dining area or your family room. You break it there, you do a grid pattern on your coffer in your living room, you eliminate the coffer in your kitchen, but then you may decide to add a beam where your eat-in area is, bring a crown molding all the way around it, and maybe on the ceiling there, add a herringbone plank or a beadboard or some design element that now defines that space and yet separates your areas and makes it really interesting and pretty.
So even with that open floor plan, you're really looking at defining the rooms, but just in the slightest way.
Exactly, yes.
I like that. And then you could kind of said you're really mixing up these design styles. That's important.
Right, so when you're looking at, say, furniture and accessories and things like that, there are definite design styles to think about. One is mid-century modern, that's been big over the past couple of years, really ultra-modern, and then traditional or transitional. One thing I will say about the whole mid-century modern trend is it can become a trend. It can become very trendy.
Okay.
So you have to be careful, and you do want to, you can mix that in with what you have, but there are more and more designers who are designing mid-century modern within a modern concept.
Oh, okay.
So you may not want to do true mid-century modern, but just kind of bring it in a little bit here and there. You don't want anything too trendy. I like to stay somewhat classic so it lasts for a very long time in your home.
Okay. And then when we're talking about window treatments, how important is that when we are looking at this open floor plan and building?
So window treatments, I think, are extremely important in an open floor plan concept. I am absolutely a drapery girl. I love draperies. People say to me all the time, aren't they old-fashioned and they're just so cumbersome and they're so big and heavy? They're absolutely not. They do so much for a room. I like going floor to ceiling, unless you have 10-foot ceilings. You have to be a little careful. Exactly.
That would be a lot.
But I do like to go nice and tall with draperies, bring them right to the floor, have beautiful fabrics. They can be solids, they can be patterns, but they add so much warmth and design to a room. And again, the adhesive palette and design concept, it grounds each area so it really pulls it all together. So what I like to do is, again, bring the fabrics from your draperies and maybe pull it in your pillows, your sofa, chairs. All of that has to be done in a cohesive way. So when you're done with a comprehensive design, it all works together off of each other.
It all flows and moves.
Exactly, yeah.
I like that.
It all flows and moves.
And you're going to be busy. What's your next event coming up? You're all over the place. Robin always has something going on.
I do. I always have something going on.
She's like, I'm doing this next. I'm in Florida. I'm in New England. I'm doing this. What's coming up for you next?
Well, I really love traveling, and my clients have been bringing me down to Florida quite a bit in the Naples area. But every year, twice a year, I attend one of the largest home furnishings market in the world in High Point, North Carolina.
Oh,
it's specifically to the trade, but we go and a couple of colleagues go and we have a great time. But people are there to introduce new product.
Cool.
Prototypes for what's coming up maybe in the fall or in 2018. You start to see the trends coming for the year after. And they're not even available yet. They're not even made. The prototypes are being made. So it's for high-end designers and the new upcoming people to launch their products and get a feel for what people like and what people want. And I also go to see my normal lines of furniture. I'll sit in sofas and I'll sit in chairs and I'll do all of that because it's very hard to buy something from a photograph.
That's true. You mean, you might say, well, it looks gorgeous, but
What
I can't
is it
touch
like?
it. I can't feel it. I don't know and to be able to put that in a client's home. You're not there.
Yeah, exactly. And more people, even if you go into a furniture store and you want to purchase something, that doesn't mean what you want is going to be on the floor for you to see.
It's true.
So again, if you're working with an experienced designer, they'll be able to guide you to the correct product. So by me seeing it and me touching it and me knowing what is out there for size and comfort, it's a lot easier for my clients to trust me when I say, oh my God, it's the most comfortable chair in the world. You have to put it in your house. Because that's really what happens. And we get all excited and we have fun with it. But that really is what happens when people are doing this type of project. Because you can't find things that are a little more unique. It's very difficult to find things like that in New England unless you really want to.
But you can find
go
them.
to New York or Boston.
Robin can
exactly.
Find them.
I can find them.
You can find them.
Yeah.
You can tell us about them.
Yeah, I definitely will.
She does. All right, Robin Garceau, thank you so much for joining us
you.
today. It's always wonderful to get your insight on real estate and interior design and the latest modern chic. So I'm looking forward to hearing your insight on what happens at that conference. So you can get us the latest inside scoop. So looking forward to that for next time.
I'll be here the second Monday of next month, and we'll talk all about it.
We're going to do that. Okay, let's take a quick picture before you go.